Now, let's see how to create hyperlinks using anchor tags. But before that, what are hyperlinks? They are text, buttons, or images which, when clicked, take us to another website or another page of the same website or even a different section in the same web page. So, let's see how to create hyperlink using anchor tags. First, create a paragraph which says something like how to create hyperlinks using anchor tags. What I want is when I click on these words, I want my browser to direct me to any of the documentation for anchor tags. So first let's find a documentation page for anchor tags. Here I am using devdocs.io. Here you can see for HTML, and inside elements there are a lot of tags, and I'm choosing anchor here, the anchor element. You can learn about any tags from here, so please make it a habit to read the documentation for using any tags. This is not particularly for HTML. Whatever be the technology, always refer the documentation before using it. So here is the documentation for anchor tag. You can go through them in detail later. So copy the URL and back in the text editor, we are going to wrap this sentence inside an anchor element. Here here a necessary attribute called href is required along with the anchor tag. So href is the hypertext reference and we write the target URL inside it. Let's save it and check if that worked as we planned. Let's refresh. We can see that the anchor element in this sentence turned blue and have an underline indicating that it is a hyperlink. So click on it and perfect. We are directed to the targeted website. What we have done now is we have added href element to a text. Now let's see if this works for a button. So down here I'm using a button tag. Let's add a text inside it which says click me. Now we can wrap this button inside an anchor element. Now the button is wrapped inside an anchor element. Here we can add the href, which is the URL for the targeted website. You can add any URL here, but for this time also let's add a documentation website, which is the MDN web docs. So this is also a beautiful documentation website for HTML. So let's copy the URL and paste it in the href. Let's hit save and refresh. Let's go back to index.html. Yeah, here there is a button which says click me. Let's click it and we are directed to the MDN web docs for anchor tag. Perfect. So here in the documentation we can see something called the target, where to display the linked URL, as the name of browsing context, like a tab, window, or iframe. This says that we can decide where we want to open up this URL, like in the same tab that we are using currently, or in a new tab, or even a new window. So these are the properties like self blank parent top. So self is the default one, that is the current browsing content, which means the same tab that we are using. Blank is the next one is blank, usually a new tab, but users can configure browsers to open a new window instead. So if you are giving the target as blank, the URL will be opened in a new tab, and there is other attributes like parent and top, which opens up the URL in another new window. So let's try out blank. Apart from href, we can give a target, and which is going to be a blank. This should open up the URL in a new tab. Let's check it. So when I click this button, click me, a new tab should open up, which is the MDN web docs for Anchor tag. Let's see if that is happening. Yes, perfect. This URL is opened up in a new tab. Now let's see if we can jump to a page which is a part of the same website that we are building. That is, I will be creating another HTML page, and what I want is when I click on some text in index.html, I want it to direct me to the newly created web page. Let's implement that. So I'm going to create another HTML page and naming it something like about.html. So I'll be adding the boilerplate code, and let's add some text here which says which says this is the this is the about page. Let's save it, and back in the index.html, let's add another anchor tag to create a hyperlink to the about.html. I'm going to add some text like click here to go to the about page. Let's add an href, and this is going to be the about.html. That is the page which we have created over here. Let's hit save. So this is our index.html. I'm going to click this link, and perfect, we are directed to the about page. So the anchor tags are not limited to text and button. You can wrap them up with anything like images, icons, and whatnot.